everyone. Welcome back to Ask Amy. I have a very timely question today from Renee. Let me see if I can find it. There it is. So Renee says, I know that how I feel about other people, how other people talk to me and treat me is about my thoughts and how much attention I give those thoughts. I totally get that and have become much more able to recognize when I'm wasting my time on their thoughts and much more able to let it go when it happens. I've played your holiday family bingo many times at family and other events, a lot. I love that. And by the way, there's a bonus surprise episode of Changeable coming out this Wednesday. It won't be a surprise for you now. That is a replay of the dysfunctional family bingo game that Renee's talking about. So Renee's played that many times. She says, but after several years of bingo and working on letting thoughts go through me like children do naturally, it seems like it would be a lot simpler to just avoid people who make me want to play family bingo. Or is that like choosing to never be near food to avoid binge eating? I'm just not sure. So it's an excellent question. Ultimately, what Renee is asking is saying is like, hey, I see something about how my experience works. I know that I'm feeling what's moving through me rather than what they did or what they said. You know, I'm feeling my own experience of this moving through, and that's been helpful for her, and that's great. But it still feels, or it seems at this point, like it would be simpler to just avoid the people that make her have to kind of, know that. So just avoiding people in some ways feels like it would be simpler and easier. And the thing is, Renee, it may be at times. So there's never, as I'm sure you know, there's never ever any behavioral prescription in anything I say. Like it may make more sense for you in any given moment to not be around people that bring stuff up through you, right? To make any kind of changes that make sense. That's fine. That's completely available to you. There is no rule. There's no better or worse way. What I think is really helpful, though, to see is that, like you say in here, or is that like choosing to never be near food to avoid binge eating? I'm just not sure. That's the thing. Like we can say in a given moment, okay, it makes more sense to not go to this family's side or to not have these people around or to do this or to do that. Wonderful. That's what we have moving through us. That's common sense and wisdom, and we do the best we can see to do with the thinking and all of that that's there in any given moment. So that's great, but there may be times when that's not so easy. You don't want to start to pin your well-being or your okayness on needing to avoid anything in life. That's where we're not free. So again, like just normal everyday life, yes, of course. Like you might also say, hey, I think my day's going to go much easier if I don't go out and get caught up in barbed wire somewhere. Great. Avoid the barbed wire, right? Like makes sense to just avoid stuff. Now, if barbed wire is a big part of your life and there's going to be all kinds of repercussions from cutting it out, and it's going to be really hard to cut out, or there's all kinds of downsides to cutting it out, then you want to look in a different thing, a different direction. If it looks like I can't be happy with barbed wire in my life, then you want to look in a different direction because you're not free anymore. If it looks different, now looser and more flexible and like, hey, I just prefer to not have it. This is easier. Again, in a moment, not for the rest of my life, not as a rule necessarily, but in a given moment, do what makes sense in that moment. So I hope that makes some sense. There are never any rules. Renee, you can trust that moment to moment you are free to do anything that feels the easiest and the best and the nicest to you. And I keep saying the in that moment part because here's what a mind wants to do. A mind wants to say, oh, those people, there's all kinds of stuff that comes up in me when I'm around them, so I'm just not going to see them anymore. Now that's a mind. That only a mind can go out to the future and we'll put it on this big scale and to make a rule around it. And, only a mind would say, I need them not around in order for me to be happy. And that's not true. There's no truth in that ultimately. And we're stuck. We're not free when we're in that place. Does that make sense? Like that's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is like, hey, I like this, I don't like that. I feel like being around these people, I don't feel like being around these people. There's no big rule around it. It's not for the rest of my life necessarily. It's just me responding to what makes sense in the moment. And I know that if I had to be around these people, I'm still okay. That's where you're free. That's where you just make the choice that makes the most sense, and you're free because your well-being isn't dependent on any of it. You are well no matter what. The only thing we're talking about is what you kind of prefer to do in a moment, what feels most right in that particular time. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that makes sense. Huge difference, and it's very easy if we're just in our heads seeing it as kind of black and white. It's very easy to sort of miss that, and and to feel like, oh, it's wrong. Kind of like your question was asking, is it wrong to not go certain places? Or like, no. But we also don't want to be locked into anything. Ultimately, the most freedom any of us can ever get is seeing that we're already free, that we have all the well-being we need within us. And from there, we just navigate life and we make choices in moment to moment that make sense for us in those moments. And it's a lot easier that way. So again, listen, check Changeable for the surprise episode of the Dysfunctional Family Bingo episode. It's always one of the most popular episodes. Like, people love this game, love this conversation. If you're newer to the podcast and you didn't hear it last year, you definitely check it out because it's a good one for the holidays. So that'll be coming out on Wednesday. And if you want to see more about navigating the holidays, family and food and spending and everything else, check out my new holiday product. You can see the first video completely free. It's at dramyjohnson.com/holiday. So thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you back here next week.